Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dungeon Dive. Daniel here. Alright, and welcome back to the next episode of the Peril of Cymbaline Island, a solo RPG using Scarlet heroes as our base rule set. So today we're going to be doing something a little different. We're going to be leaving the city of Halfin and going out into the wilderness and having our first wilderness adventure. And that is because of this side quest that we picked up last time from the jobs board outside of the Crooked Violin, our tavern home base. Lair of the Mother, a woodcutter named Stefan, was cutting wood in an old sacred Fey forest. He angered the Fey and they kidnapped his family. And so we are trying to go and investigate and try to rescue his family for Stefan. So that is something we are doing. A brief recap on our last episode. If you remember, we went to the church. We're trying to investigate a cult activity in the city of Halfin. We went to the church of this priest here, Salim, who is a friend of a friend, and we asked him questions about what's going on. He wouldn't answer us. We already saved his life once at his house when he was ambushed by some thugs who were trying to steal his tithing money. And when we were at the church, the cult now is like super brazen. They are not caring at all about making their presence known. They attacked us in the church. We fought them off, saving Salim's life again. He still wouldn't talk to us. He will not tell us what is going on. The cult has something on him, blackmail something. Why won't Salim talk to us? That is an avenue that we are going to have to further discover. Or investigate, I should say. But while we were in the church, one of the church members did give us a little hint when they were leaving, telling us to go search the storeroom of the church. And in the storeroom, we found this ancient manuscript that was bound in this old, just like kind of decrepit leather. And we kind of have an idea that it's the cult is going to be using some kind of spell in this manuscript to summon some kind of plague that is going to fall upon the city of Halfin. We also learned that Rhea, one of the regulars at the tavern, our half-show shaman, she has had some kinds of dealings with the cult in some way. I think out on her own wilderness adventures, she has come across remnants, ruins, runes, just some kind of evidence of this cult of the slaves of the judging cloud. So she is going to be kind of our conduit, our ticket into the world of the cult. We can use her to help facilitate some kind of information that we need, and maybe we'll find that out while we are exploring. So like I said, we are going to be leaving the city today. We are going to be going out on this side quest here, and the rules for Scarlet Heroes for the urban adventures, remember, it is kind of a tug of war or a race to 10 victory points. Right now, Harlan has 2, the cult has 1. We have discovered 2 clues which we can spend to do more of an action sequence when we get back into the town. But I believe that the way that the urban adventures really are supposed to be played are pretty snappy, pretty quickly, in a brisk fashion. And we are kind of protracting it, extending them, just because of the nature of doing this kind of episodically on YouTube for the channel. So ours is taking a little while longer. According to the rules, when you are on an urban adventure, if you take a rest to heal, to recuperate, and that kind of thing, you automatically give the other side a victory point, because you taking time off, they are going about their business while you are not. But because our adventure is more protracted, we're going to say that each week that we are away from actively pursuing the investigation into the cult, that they will get 1 victory point. So our adventure today is going to start on Thurstark, and so they're going to get a +1 victory point. While we were on this side quest, every week that we are away, we will add 1 victory point to their total. So we're going to bring that up to 2. Now what's interesting with this is it's not like a board game where if the Colt gets to 10, we lose, we have to start the campaign over. No, if the Colt gets to 10 first, that's how that adventure ended. And perhaps they unleashed the plague on Halfin, and then our new adventure will be to find out how to cure the plague or something like that. So I enjoy that aspect quite a bit. Again, returning to Scarlet Heroes. Scarlet Heroes, the solo mode for wilderness adventures is a standard hex crawl, and we will not be using a standard hex crawl. For one thing, we have this out of scale map that I like that we're going to be traveling on, and I don't really want to be dealing with the kind of survival aspects of a standard hex crawl. A lot of solo hex crawls and a lot of RPG hex crawls really do deal with the nitty-gritty, moment-to-moment survival basis. Dealing with rations, dealing with water, dealing with random encounters. I'm looking at the travel in a more abstract way, more of a connection of events that will happen on our way to our destination. And so in that sense, the wilderness part of our adventure is probably the part where I am kind of like creating most of the game. And a lot of that you guys are going to see on camera here is an experimentation. And some things may work, some things may not work. And we will discover that together. Now, off camera, I did buy 10 rations. So we went to the store in Halfin. We went to the general store to buy a couple things. I bought 10 rations. And I bought some rope, and I am keeping track of our weight because I think encumbrance is something that could add an interesting element to a single player solo RPG. Normally, I don't like to keep track of encumbrance, but I have a feeling that it could come in handy when creating a story, and we'll see if that happens. So right now I can carry a total of 80 pounds, and I am carrying 70 with all of my adventuring gear, weapons, armor, 10 days of rations, and some rope. And I am assuming, or I'm playing, that those rations also includes water. So in the introductory video quite a while ago, we did talk a little bit about how my wilderness adventure is going to work. And we're going to be utilizing the Overland Travel deck from Pixel Loot, and I believe these are still available. I got these a couple years ago via Kickstarter. There's a few decks that I find quite useful, and I'm really glad I got this one, especially for what we're going to be using now. We will go over as we travel. We can move 4 spaces on this map because the spaces and everything is not into scale. It's really hard to keep track of distance, so we're going to keep track of time using these cards. Using the number of hours here, that's how many hours it took us to travel that day. If the travel is 12 or fewer hours, then we had an easy day travel. We didn't have to exert ourselves. We didn't use any, we like maybe found food on the way. We could take our time. We didn't really have any dangerous encounters. We had an easy day of travel. And if that happens, we will roll 2d6. On a yellow wand, we will have some kind of encounter, and then the blue die here will determine what kind of encounter that is. Additionally, if we travel for 12 or fewer hours a day, we can do a couple things. We can search our surroundings for something. We can stop and smell the roses, which is something that I'm calling a character introspective moment, where we can learn something more about our characters. We can work on or repair a thing if that's something we want to do, or we can hunt for additional rations. Now, if we draw a card that is over 12 hours, which I think about a third of these are, then that day's travel was arduous. It was dangerous. We had encounters. In that case, we will guarantee to have some kind of an encounter, most likely a combat encounter. Additionally, we will also have to read the nighttime encounter on this chart, or on this card, showing that it was a hard day's travel. Now, when we do have random encounters, I do want to work on a custom table that can encompass and cover a whole bunch of bases for wilderness encounters in this game. Right now, I kind of feel like I'm having to check a whole bunch of different things. And as we are playing, we will explore different ways to have random encounters. Some of the things you're going to be seeing on the camera today and for the wilderness, whenever we're out in the wilderness, we're going to kind of do what if situations, utilizing different game tools. So that way you guys can kind of get the sense of like what I'm exploring, and you can get an idea of maybe what you might want to use in your games. Today, I think what we're going to focus on, if we have any encounters, is generating random encounters using this deck of picture cards from the Story Master's Tales as a kind of divination tool to find out what we discovered on our journeys, on our encounters, or we might possibly be using these overland travel encounter cards from Dungeon Universalis. And I have made a single deck here utilizing the forest, plains, and river encounter cards as a single deck of encounters, just because like our landscape here is mostly forests, plains, you know, roads and rivers and that kind of thing. So we will be drawing from the bottom of this deck. So yeah, let's, we got our gear. Rhea is with us. Now when I'm playing and we are being accompanied by an NPC, I am not going to use an NPC as an additional character, controlling them on any maps, that kind of thing. What I will be using them as is more in a utility fashion where they can help us. And Rhea, since she is a shaman, she has healing spells. And the spell that she has is called Hands of Merciful Succor, and she can use that twice a day. And so if we get into any situations, she can help us heal. And that's how we will be utilizing an NPC in our party. One thing we need to do, first of all, is we need to randomize how far away we need to travel. And there are probably a couple ways you can do that. You could probably do it more of a stat check way, where you could go to certain spots and actually search for the thing. What we're going to do in this segment, this leg of this journey, is we are going to say that we have two possibilities. That we know that the entrance into the Fey realm could be in this forest here, or it could be in this forest here. So a short or long distance away. We're going to say on a 1 to a 4, it's or long to a 1 to 4, it's going to be a long distance. On a 5 or 6, it's going to be a short distance. Okay, so a 6, so it's a short distance away. So we won't have a very long ways to travel here. So we're leaving from this main entrance here, and remember we can move 4 spaces. So the road spaces are definitely bigger on this map. So we're going to move 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we're at this crossroads here. We've been traveling the whole day. That's the end of our movement. So now we draw a card from the overland travel to see how long that day took. Ooh, 14 hours. Okay, that was a long day of traveling. So why was that a long day of traveling? Let us see here. Okay, so if it is over 12 hours, rations are needed. So it was a long day of travel. It was grueling. We had to exert ourselves, so we had to use rations. So I'm going to take 10 down to 9. Okay. Now, we also need to automatically consult the nighttime entry on the card and have a combat. On a 1 to 4, it's a 1 to 4, it's a combat encounter. On a 5 to 6, it's another kind of encounter. Okay, so we're going to have a combat encounter, and we're also going to have to deal with the nighttime event on this card. Let's have our combat encounter first, and I'll be right back with that. Okay, so I have our Scarlet Heroes book here, and we're going to roll a d20 on the road encounters to see what we have here. And I rolled a 12 there. So a 12 here is a Jiangxi. All right, so having to face off against a Jiangxi, a hopping vampire at this junction in our adventure is absolutely terrifying. And it is also kind of cool because I love Chinese hopping vampires. And I get to bust out my hopping vampire minis from the expansion for Journey Wrath of Demons. If you guys know the lore behind these guys, it is very cool. They usually have their ankles bound, and they're usually led by a Taoist priest back to their homeland, their home village where they are buried. And they hop and they follow the priest. The priest has these spells put on them, and they have to be in these special coffins, and they hunt people by breath. I don't know if that's the way they actually work in this game, but I'm going to take the lore that I know about these guys and keep it like that. So the enemy, it's at night. Rhea and I hear this sound, this thump, 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 and we see this hopping vampire. So a hopping vampire at this point in the game is totally going to kill us. They are very powerful. They have an armor class of 6. Only 1 appears. They have a hit dice. They have 7 to 9 hit points, and they have like 3 attacks. They really can't be killed by mortal weapons, by mundane weapons, according to this game. So we're going to have to kind of have a non-combat encounter, and hopefully, since they track us by our breath. So one thing we want to do is we want to kind of see their attitude towards us or their current purpose. So the purpose is probably going to be a little weird because maybe they're being led by a priest. We could say that there is also a priest, that a priest is leading this procession of hopping vampires back to their village to be properly buried. And we want to try to stay hidden. So let's roll on the current purpose given their location. And this is a wilderness encounter. Oh, 1. Avenge a raid by neighboring enemies. Okay, so actually maybe this priest here is actually leading this vampire to a village in order to use it as some kind of like biological weapon or something. We are going to try to remain hidden. And we're going to say that because we are with Rhea here in the forest that in the wilderness that she is familiar with, she's going to help us stay hidden. And this is going to be a 9 check. And we're going to say that we're going to have a +1 here for our, we'll use that as probably a wisdom check to stay hidden. Maybe a dexterity check, but it's not really an acrobatic, it's not really an agility check that we're using. We're trying to use our intelligence to know of a good place to hide. Yeah, that sounds good. So we're gonna give ourselves a +1 and ooh, a 6, a 7. Okay, so we're not very stealthy. Perhaps the priest has discovered our location, and let's see what how he's going to react to us. This could be really bad. All right, where is my chart here? There we go. NPC reactions. It is a stranger. 2d6, a 6. Qualified refusal. I always seem to roll qualified refusal, and I always have a difficult time determining what qualified refusal is. Let's see if I can get a clue here from this random word chart here. 2d20s. The first is going to be a cross, 2, and down 5. Alertness. Okay, let's just play it like this. So he is alert. He saw us, but he is on some kind of mission to get this hopping vampire to the village so he can get some kind of revenge. So his qualified refusal is he decides to just keep going and ignore us. I definitely do not want to fight this encounter. I would probably run away if they attacked us because I know that I would lose this fight. Now, this is a situation here where maybe I'm bending the rules, but it is also a situation that I enjoy because there's one thing I don't like about video game open world games like Skyrim or something is when you see an NPC out in the wilderness, they either will attack or they won't. And you can always, there's no way to ever end an encounter situation with an enemy in a game like Skyrim in a peaceful way, except for just running away. So at least in this kind of game, we can get some story ideas and kind of mold that, bend it around the situation to come up with something that fits our situation a little better. Because I don't think you guys want to see Harlan Peters just get straight up killed by a hopping vampire and this Taoist priest. But now we do know that there are some hopping vampires around, and maybe that will come back to haunt us at another time. And I think I'm going to write that down as a story hook for a potential adventure in the future, where maybe we want to go and investigate the existence of these guys and what they were doing out here traveling. So let's remember that. That's good. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is we need to encounter our nighttime space. This says an NPC approaches the player's camp at nightfall and kindly offers to trade some fresh game for a spot at the fire. It's a doppelganger and switches its appearance between players to create a chaotic opportunity for theft. It will flee if discovered. Okay, well, it's only two of us. So perhaps I was sleeping and Rhea came, or about ready to sleep, and Rhea came and she was asking for something. And let's see if I recognize that this is not the real Rhea. And if it's not, then they're going to steal 1 or 2 rations from us. So we're going to say this is a 9 check, and I'm do a plus 1 here for my wisdom for perception roll. And there is an 8, a 9. Okay, so I recognize the fact that this was a doppelganger. I stand up and she runs away, and the real Rhea comes out from the trees and says, "Hey, what was that?" And I tell her all of the crazy shit that has been happening. Okay, what an eventful day of traveling. Okay, I'm glad that that day is over. And now I forgot where I was. I was at the crossroads here. Okay, so now we need to enter this forest here to try to find our location for our side quest. And there are 2 locations in this forest. We move at 1, and we will have we will draw our day's encounter to find out how long it took us to go through this forest. If it was a long day, then we can't search for the location that day. We have to do it the next day because maybe this forest, like I said, this forest could be giant. So we move, we stop in this space because we want to search for the entrance to the Fey realm in this space. We draw our card here, and it was a 5-hour trek into this forest. So pretty easy to find. First, we're going to roll to see if we find it. We're going to a 9 check here. We're going to give us our +2 for our natural navigator trait and ability. 15. All right, so +2. We find the entrance into the Fey realm in this spot here, but we still need to deal with our easy day worth of travel. So it was an easy day. We don't have to use rations, but we can do something from this list here, where we can search the surroundings, we can stop and smell the roses, repair or work on a thing, or hunt for more rations, or read the day event on the card. What I want to do is I want to stop and smell the roses or stop and smell the flowers, because I think that is a cool idea where we can find out a little bit more about Harlan Peterson here. And I have this chart here that was taken from dndspeak.com, and it's 100 random questions to ask players about their PCs. So just to kind of figure out some things about them. So let's have a character introspective moment before we go into the realms of the Fae. And that is 94. 94. What is your character's biggest flaw? He's just too powerful. Okay, yeah, biggest flaw. That's a tough question. I hate that question in interviews because I hate, using it to your advantage. But what we can do is use this to an advantage to come up with some story ideas. And that is more interesting, I think. I'm going to turn to fate on this one, and we're going to turn to the table fables, and we are going to use one of the character tables here on disabilities and character quirks, because I want to leave this out of my hands to come up with a cool thing that we might have to deal with while we're playing as Harlan Peters. So it's going to be another D100 roll, and that is going to be 58. So let's see about Harlan Peters here. I have difficulty trusting everyone, even their allies. So Harlan Peters has trust issues. I'm not quite sure how that is going to develop now, but that will be something that maybe we have to think about. And that doesn't necessarily mean that he distrusts everyone. Maybe there are a certain group of people that he distrusts more than others. Perhaps he was harmed by a group of people, a certain sector of society in his past, and so that will play a crucial role in the way that this story is developed going forward, and we'll just have to explore that as we play. Okay, so we find the Fey realm. With Rhea's help, we find some kind of mechanism, a rune. She traces her hands on this rock or something, and it opens up a portal into the Fey realm. And here we have our entrance into the Fey realm. And we have the entrance here where we are coming in. And as we enter this realm, at the end of this canyon here, we see the Hungry Mother is what we're going to be calling her. And flanking her on her two sides are these antlered forest goblin creatures. And what is going to happen here? Well, we're going to have a combat encounter or some kind of conflict encounter with a Hungry Mother and the antlered goblins. And I've kind of created them using other creatures from Scarlet Heroes. And that's what we're going to call today. We're going to end on a little cliffhanger. What is going to happen in the Fey realm? Will we be able to rescue Stefan's children? How are we going to have to deal with the Hungry Mother and her two antlered goblin henchmen? We will find out next time on the Peril of Cymbaline Island. All right, guys. Oh, you know what we forgot to do is keep track of the days. So that was 2 days worth of travel. So we have been on this adventure for a total of 1 week game time. So, all right, guys. Well, we will talk to you later. Take it easy. Bye-bye.